In July 2013, in the sunlit city of Perpignan, France, a story began to unfold, one that would grip the nation and reverberate across the globe. At the heart of this tale were 19-year-old Alison Benitez, a vibrant beauty queen brimming with promise, and her 53-year-old mother, Marie-José Benitez, a devoted matriarch loved by many. Their sudden disappearance shattered the tranquility of their close-knit community, leaving behind whispers of mystery and suspicion. With every step investigators took, the case grew darker, a labyrinth of deceit, hidden violence, and chilling discoveries. At the center of it all was Francisco Benitez, Alison's father, whose role in this tragedy would forever cast a shadow on the search for justice. On July 14, 2013, Alison and Marie-José Benitez were last seen in Perpignan, their ordinary lives giving no hint of the storm brewing beneath. 8 days later, on July 22nd, Francisco Benitez, Alison's father and Marie-José's husband, reported their disappearance. His claim? That they had left their home for Toulouse without notice. Yet no witnesses confirmed this account. Their phones remained active in Perpignan for days after their alleged departure, while no travel records, phone calls, or financial activity followed. Alison, a Miss Rosselin finalist, missed an important appointment for the Miss France contest, a glaring inconsistency in Francisco's narrative. Slowly, doubts thickened around his story, turning an already tragic mystery into something far darker. Marie-José Benitez, described as a devoted mother of 5, was a woman whose life revolved around her children. 4 of her children came from a previous relationship, with Alison being her only child with Francisco. The idea that she would leave without a word seemed unfathomable. Despite immediate efforts to locate the 2 women, no leads surfaced in the critical early days. Francisco, a 50-year-old former chief warrant officer in the French Foreign Legion, took to the media, portraying himself as a grieving husband and father. In a tearful video filmed by his stepdaughter and shared by Paris Match, Francisco pleaded for their return, his voice heavy with supposed anguish. "People who know me know that Alison is my everything," he said. Yet, his tone shifted, riddled with contradictions. "Today, I am unsure whether we will find my daughter. She's been gone for 3 weeks, and my daughter wouldn't do something like this. Legionnaire or not, it's a question of the heart of family." For all his words, cracks in his sincerity began to emerge, leaving investigators questioning his true role in the tragedy. As the investigation deepened, Francisco Benitez's story began to unravel under scrutiny. His claim that Alison and Marie had left voluntarily grew more inconsistent with every detail uncovered. Investigators noted his alarming lack of urgency in reporting their disappearance, a delay that raised immediate suspicion. By August 2nd, authorities officially opened a preliminary inquiry into the vanishing of the mother and daughter. Adding to their doubts, neither Alison nor Marie had driver's licenses, and no CCTV footage from the area showed them using public transport to leave Perpignan for Toulouse, as Francisco had claimed. The evidence painted a troubling picture. The women had received no phone calls, made no financial transactions, and had gone silent on social media. Alison, who had been preparing for the prestigious Miss France competition, missed a critical appointment the very next day, something entirely out of character. When pressed, Francisco deflected, suggesting his wife left him over marital problems. Yet no trace of Alison or Marie could be found, and the shadow of doubt loomed larger over him. As investigators delved deeper, the discoveries became more unsettling, painting a picture of something far more sinister. Forensic experts uncovered traces of blood, invisible to the naked eye, in the family's Perpignan apartment. The blood, found in the meticulously cleaned bathroom and at the foot of Francisco's bed, was later identified through DNA testing as belonging to Alison Benitez. This damning evidence contradicted Francisco's claims that the women had left of their own accord. Suspicion grew further when it was revealed that Francisco had washed the family's car on the very day of their disappearance. But the most chilling revelations came from Francisco's past. Investigators uncovered that in November 2004, a former lover, 28-year-old Simone Oliveira Alves, had vanished under eerily similar circumstances in Nimes. Simone, a Brazilian native, had been unaware that Francisco was married, as he had led her to believe he was divorced. Their 6-year affair was marked by violent outbursts, including one instance where Francisco abandoned her, stripped and humiliated, on the side of a road. Simone's disappearance remained unsolved, but now, her story seemed hauntingly linked to the tragedy in Perpignan. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Simone Oliveira Alves had been hospitalized under mysterious circumstances. A Paris Match report suggested the cause may have been a suicide attempt or miscarriage, though some speculated it might have followed one of Francisco's violent outbursts. Francisco claimed to have ended their relationship on December 2nd, yet Simone had last been seen 2 days earlier. Despite her abrupt disappearance, Francisco was investigated at the time but never charged, with insufficient evidence to hold him accountable. However, after Alison and Marie-José vanished nearly a decade later, Simone's case was reopened. Investigators began to suspect a disturbing pattern, one woven with violence, manipulation, and deceit running through Francisco's past relationships. Like Marie-José, Simone had also left behind 4 children when she disappeared, a chilling similarity that investigators could not ignore. Following Marie's disappearance, a cryptic text message was sent to her eldest daughter, Lydia. The message read, "I made a difficult decision, but it's better this way. I'm going to Toulouse with Alison. It's going to be difficult at first, and that's why I didn't want to call. I love you. Call Dad." Tired of these arguments. Yet, the message was riddled with errors and unusual occurrence for Marie, whose texts were typically clear and concise. The tone and timing raised red flags. Further analysis of Alison and Marie's phones revealed an even more damning detail: their devices remained active in the Perpignan area for days after their supposed departure. This evidence contradicted Francisco's narrative entirely, pointing investigators back to the family home as the likely scene of a far darker reality. As the mounting evidence painted an increasingly damning picture, investigators shifted their full attention to Francisco Benitez as the prime suspect. But just as the case appeared poised for a breakthrough, it took a shocking turn. On August 5, 2013, less than a month after Alison and Marie-José disappeared, Francisco was found dead by suicide at the French Foreign Legion barracks where he worked. He had hanged himself with a scarf shortly after a phone call with yet another of his lovers in Barcelona. Francisco left behind a note, declaring his innocence in the disappearance of his wife and daughter, a sentiment he had also voiced in his tearful Paris Match appeal. Yet, the note offered no clarity, no answers, and no explanation. Instead of closure, Francisco's death only deepened the shadows over an already devastating case. In the days before his death, Francisco sent a peculiar package to one of his lovers, containing a purple scarf and a cryptic note that read, "You'll understand later. I love you, Kiko." To many, his suicide was seen as an unspoken admission of guilt, a final, desperate act by a man cornered by the weight of his lies. Others viewed it differently, interpreting his death as the act of someone crushed by grief and the pressure of being accused of crimes he may not have committed. In the weeks leading up to his suicide, Francisco had cooperated with police but was visibly unraveling under the relentless scrutiny of investigators and the media. His death sent shockwaves through both the investigation and the public, leaving behind a void that only deepened the mystery. With the prime suspect gone, the truth seemed even more elusive. Francisco Benitez's death, far from providing resolution, plunged the case into even greater uncertainty. His colleagues and friends, many of whom had initially defended him, were left reeling by his sudden and tragic end. Yet, his suicide robbed investigators of the one person who might have held the answers to Alison and Marie-José's fate. Even in his absence, Francisco's actions continued to haunt the investigation. Forensic teams uncovered traces of Alison's blood in the drain pipe of a freezer and on the seal of a tumble dryer, both of which Francisco had donated to the barracks shortly after the women disappeared. Witnesses reported seeing him meticulously cleaning the freezer and tumble dryer in the days following their vanishing, actions that raised even more questions about what truly happened inside the family's home. From the moment Alison and Marie-José were reported missing, the case ignited a media firestorm, drawing attention from across France and beyond. Several elements fueled this fascination. Alison, a rising star in the world of beauty pageants, embodied youthful ambition and promise, making her disappearance all the more devastating. The image of a vibrant young woman vanishing alongside her devoted mother struck a chord with the public, turning their story into a tragic symbol of lost potential. Adding to the intrigue was Francisco Benitez's role in the saga. A respected officer in the French Foreign Legion, his disciplined military persona stood in stark contrast to the dark suspicion swirling around him. This duality, a soldier sworn to protect, yet accused of harboring unspeakable secrets, made the story impossible to ignore. As the investigation unfolded, the media delved deep into Francisco Benitez's life, painting a picture of a man living a double existence. Reports unearthed details of his numerous relationships, past indiscretions, and the eerie possibility that he had been connected to more than one disappearance. The intense focus on the Benitez family extended to their private lives, with journalists probing into Francisco's past lovers and documenting the emotional reactions of family members. With every revelation, the public became more captivated. Daily updates on the investigation dominated headlines, each twist fueling an already dramatic narrative and keeping the nation gripped by the mystery. In October 2013, 3 months after Alison and Marie-José vanished, a potential breakthrough seemed within reach. Human remains were discovered near a canal on the outskirts of Perpignan. Eric Barbet, Marie-José's brother, was alerted to the find by a passerby and personally retrieved the bones, handing them over to authorities for analysis. The discovery ignited a wave of speculation. Could this finally be the clue that would solve the case? Hope surged, only to be cruelly extinguished when DNA tests confirmed the remains were not related to Alison or Marie-José. Instead, they belonged to an animal, delivering a crushing blow to both investigators and the family. Despite the setback, authorities pressed forward, determined to uncover the truth in a case that had gripped the nation. Years have passed, yet the case of Alison and Marie-José Benitez remains shrouded in mystery. Investigators have revisited the evidence time and again, hoping for a breakthrough that could bring long-awaited closure. But with no remains discovered and no significant leads emerging, frustration continues to mount for the authorities, the public, and, most painfully, the victim's family. For Marie-José's brother, Eric Barbet, the unresolved disappearance has been a source of profound grief. In interviews, he has spoken openly about the emotional toll it has taken, describing the agony of living without answers and the deep frustration with the investigation's slow progress. The family's heartbreak stands as a stark reminder of the heavy cost of an unresolved tragedy. What began as a missing persons case spiraled into a complex web of deceit, blood evidence, damning phone records, and the haunting suicide of the prime suspect. The motive behind the tragedy remains speculative, but many believe it stemmed from Alison uncovering her father's infidelity, a secret she may have intended to reveal to her mother. Reports from Paris Match suggest that during Christmas 2012, Alison had discovered incriminating texts on her father's phone, revealing an affair with a co-worker that had lasted 6 months. Francisco's pattern of manipulation became increasingly evident, with one lover describing him as a man with an insatiable ego, often masking loneliness to lure women into his orbit. As Paris Match aptly summarized, the charmer becomes a tragedian. A haunting depiction of a man whose double life unraveled into devastation. The cracks in Francisco Benitez's double life began to widen after Alison reportedly discovered his infidelity. An argument followed, pushing him to retreat to his office, where he spent the night on a makeshift bed. Despite his personal life crumbling, Marie-José had even contacted a divorce attorney on the very day she disappeared. Francisco showed no signs of stopping his destructive behavior. That same night, he continued pursuing other women, adding to the web of deceit that would soon engulf him. The theory that Francisco killed his wife and daughter to protect his secrets and lies has persisted as one of the most plausible explanations. In his final hours, Francisco ensured his stepchildren were safe in Seville, Spain, before spending the night apologizing to his numerous lovers, seeking their forgiveness. Hours later, he ended his life, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and shattered lives. In his final hours, Francisco's erratic behavior left many of his lovers deeply concerned. As they pleaded with him, "Don't do anything stupid," he sent them a chilling response, a shirtless photograph of himself, taken just 2 hours before his suicide. After his death, Francisco was cremated, and buried in Seville Cemetery, Spain, without an epitaph to mark his grave. Despite the overwhelming circumstantial evidence pointing to his guilt, the lack of solid proof leaves lingering uncertainty. Did Francisco truly kill his wife and daughter, or is there another explanation hidden in the shadows? Investigators continue to search for answers, holding on to the hope that advances in forensic science or the emergence of a new witness might one day crack this haunting case. For Alison and Marie-José's loved ones, the desire for closure burns stronger with each passing year, a hope that justice will one day prevail and the mystery will finally be laid to rest.